Hi, everybody. My name is Craig Norberg-Bohm, and I am the coordinator, admin coordinator for North American Men Engaged Network. Delight to have you all join us. We should have a full room today. Up to 90 people have registered, and we're at 25 or 26 now. So I expect in a few minutes we'll have a few more. But it's terrific to have you to join us today from wherever you may be. We open this to the public and to the international community, so there should be all sorts of folks here to share their experiences. So it's my distinct pleasure to welcome you to our program today, our community outreach meetup called A Father's Bowl. And it's important to us now to think about folks who've gone before and whose land we're on, and in respect for Indigenous folks in our communities, we want to share our land recognition. NAMEN's administrative offices are located in the unceded traditional homelands of the Pawtucket, the Pentucket, the Namkeg, the Agawam, the Wampanoag, and Massachusetts, and other Indigenous nations who have made their homes along the Massachusetts Bay, Charles, and Concord rivers. All of us have lands, and you can research who your lands are. It's a respectful thing to acknowledge the land we are on, especially unceded territories. So this is an outreach meetup, which means we're offering free membership to new folks who are not members of NAMEN. It is a membership organization for a free year membership with a code. And we'll drop that code into our chat from time to time. You can use that to join today. And we will remind you in subsequent messages, a thank you message later on, and other messages. So thank you so much for your considered participation. So let me say a few words about NAMEN, and then we'll get on with the program. And we'll do little setups here. We are part of the Global Men Engaged Alliance. You can check that out at menengaged.org, and our website is in the chat now. You can check that out about where we are and what we're doing. We coverage connections in Canada and the US. Men Engaged Alliance is worldwide, and there are regions in other parts of the world that are very strong, from Africa to Europe, South Asia to Central America to the Caribbean. So we enjoy and thrilled and honored to be a part of a global network, thinking about promoting healthy masculinities, men and boys engagement, prevention of violence, and promotion of healthy lives. And today's program is exactly along those lines. So we would love to have a social media moment. We'd like to take a couple of screenshots of a screen with all of us on it as much as we can. So if you wouldn't mind, I know you don't need to leave your video on for the entire program, but if you would turn your video on for a moment and smile and wave at the screen. And what we're going to do is give a nice picture. So do this, say hello, and we'll take a couple of screenshots. Hi, everyone. I'd love to see your faces and be part of this. Thank you so much. So we'll do our best to use these screens and promote this terrific work. So thank you so much for that. Let me then, having done that, thank you very much. I think that will work. Also, let me say that today our language will be in English, and I know the global network with many languages that we speak. And what we have offered today, as it might help, is that in closed captioning, you select captions in your toolbar, you can select a language that you're seeing the captions in. It's automatic, computer generated, so not perfect. In fact, humorous from time to time, but it will help you follow along if your first language is other than English. So feel free to give that a try. So introduce yourselves in chat, say hello, where you're from, how you are today. Love to hear from you and have you say hello to one another. The ground rules, as usual, step up, step back. We are an open meeting, so we'll invite conversation from all of you as time through the program. We're running for 2 hours, so Eastern time until 3 p.m. And mute all the time because of background noise. You can unmute when you speak. Raise your hand if you'd like to speak. That's another way to go. It helps out. But we're looking forward to a dialogue later on. And so open your camera if you choose. Do open your camera when you speak if you could, but it's your choice otherwise. But thank you. It's my pleasure to now introduce Coach Lynn, the Interim Executive Director for the North American Men Engaged Network, NAMEN. He comes to us from a strong background and work with fatherhood in particular. And I know it's a heartfelt and deep passion of his. And I know we're excited to hear from him in this program. So Coach, I'm going to turn this over to you now. So please join us.
Thank you, Craig. Not only for that masterful introduction and warm up, if you will. I liked it. Get him warmed up. I loved it. You got us on the right path, and I truly appreciate that.
Yes, of course.
On behalf of the members, and I also want to welcome all of the guests that we have here today in this topic of father's role. For those who I have not had the wonderful honor of meeting yet in person, hold on tight. We're going to be able to sit down with you one-on-one. We have some wonderful things Craig's going to be talking about later in the show about how we could support our members, both past and present. But today we're going to be talking about something, as Craig mentioned, that's a little near and dear to our hearts. Getting a chance to kind of showcase, like men do, you know, we want to pass things on. We want to have a legacy, if you will, particularly if it's of a positive, nurturing nature. And so today we're going to be speaking about how, and most of us in this realm, in this audience, and in this space understand the number one issue before us is addressing men and boys in this mission that we're on. We have the top minds, research, data. There, we go way back. We have real data, quantitative and qualitative. You already know we do. However, the question is now, who's going to go talk to the guys? Who's going to go talk to the men, particularly those who need to hear us the most? Where are they? What kind of language would we use? What would we say that they would listen? What are they doing right now where we can kind of piggyback off some already movements that are going on? One in particular, as Craig alluded to, is the gender justice and gender equality movement that's been going on since the 1800s. We got some quizzes coming on. It's going to be a workout for Emiliano. You already know we're going to work them out. So get ready, guys. Get your pencils, ladies and gentlemen. Pencils and paper. Get it ready. You already know. However, the gender justice movement has been going on for quite some time, seeking basic things: equality, justice, safety. You know, a chance to be myself, regardless of my gender or who I love or how I love or what I consider myself. And so these are the two realms that today we are now going to be introducing to each other. For those who have not had the chance to see how the both will merge. One giving the gender justice an audience, what we've been seeking, where are the men at? And the fatherhood movement now has thousands of men across the country, dual nations, and the world, as you'll see, where they hear a little bit more, because now they're in this fatherhood space. They're a little bit prone to listen and hear and share and feel. And that's perfect prime target for us to make sure that we have the information, professionals, all the things that they need in order particularly to get this subject on the table and addressed in that audience of thousands. All righty? So that's what we're going to be doing today. And we have a wonderful, wonderful special guest. I can't wait till he comes on. He's going to work out that station as you saw it. You're going to see it in the agenda. We call them stations, language. And the guys understand those stations. But he's going to be talking about one of the toughest things that we have to address right away. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing today. I believe, Craig, now we're going to go through the program so that you get a chance to see exactly station by station. And then after that, we'll move into a little bit of the workout. Is that right, Craig?
Sure. You want me to share, or would you like to share?
If I share, then I'll be able to move the screens at my pace.
You should.
All right, so let's try that, guys. You understand how Coach is doing? You could be fearful of your life right now, correct? I understand that.
We get
However,
it.
You got to do it, Dad. Training number one. Joanny, you better tell him, don't be afraid of trying something new. All right. So our first screen here, of course, we're seeing today, of course, we're going to be talking about a father's role. That topic is critical all around the country, particularly of those who say a father's role is just completely distorted in many of their minds because they never had a father or father figure to emulate. They never saw it. You know, it's hard for you to become something that you never even saw anything like it. You just got it in your head, it could be wrong. Today, our special guest, Emiliano Diaz de Leon from TASA, he's going to be talking to you about some incredible work they're doing in engaging men in domestic violence field. Very difficult, not impossible, and he is the best of the best. He's going to be leading that session with us. Today, we're going to be talking about topics in the agenda. We're going to do a little introduction, definitions, highlighting the gender justice feminist movement so that we can understand what that means. Both its historical relevance as well as 2023, what just happened, particularly at a big conference at the UN. You see, the battle still goes on. And how can the fatherhood program be supportive of that? As well as the Responsible Fatherhood campaign. There's some misnomers out there. There's been some bad blood, some people who have tried to, put their own little spin on the original fatherhood program and why we started and how we started. So today we're going to get this story straight. Peer review. You understand that language? All righty. We'll go through the coach's keys to success. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that, as well as going to be looking at some campaigns and some other work that you'll be able to plug into fairly quickly in order to spread the message come fall for sure. All righty. After we finish that, then we're going to go on to our good special guest, Station 2, Engaging Men and Addressing Domestic Violence. Emiliano Diaz de Leon is going to be the one presenting that. I can't wait. He has incredible information, resources, and strategies, how you could do fatherhood programs. It's got to be on the docket. It's got to be in your playbook. No longer can you just have some of the same old programs and this and that. They're good, but this is 2023. Emiliano is going to be talking to us about that. All right, once we finish with that, then we're going to have a little round table. Everybody, it's time for us to discuss some things. So as in any training program, and I'm putting that out there now, we're recommending you use YouTube and other videos to help you in your messaging and to helping in your sessions. Everybody loves YouTube. The fellas love that. And you can find some fantastic things. Today, we're going to look at 3 of them. Number 1, since you asked, daughters and their feelings about their fathers. We're going to hear straight from daughters how they feel about their fathers, good and bad. All right, get your tissue ready for some of you. There's nothing wrong with that. Emiliano, I got mine. I got a box over here right now. Huh? I don't care. Craig, I'm going to start wiping right now. So that's going to be a good session. The next one, Brooklyn fathers give advice in raising their sons. We're going to have some Brooklyn young fathers with young boys with their vision of what a man really is. And the last one, we're going to talk about a real presentation, a real event that you could hold where you kill a lot of birds with a beautiful pebble that you have. So I believe that's it. Let's see. Oh, I'm so sorry. We're almost there. After that, we're going to go through the information sharing. Each time you have a session with fathers or men of any caliber, it's best that you put together some type of survey. That way you're now collecting data. This industry is very data starved. And really, anybody who could really put that together on a continuous basis, basic stuff, by the time you write your grants and all that, you really do have a good research piece to work on. So we're going to help you with that. We're going to talk a little bit about that, the need for that, and some campaigns that are working out there right now. Then we're going to go on to the register today. And I'm almost there, guys, almost there. So the bottom line is this. Today, as we mentioned before, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to join us at NAMEN. We've waived the annual fee for those members coming in today, if you never have before, to be one of our members, which means we have constant communication, constant resources, constant sharing of ideals and best practices. So we're going to encourage you today. That registration has been sent to you. Go ahead and fill that out and send it back to us so we can keep you in the loop. This is only the beginning. All righty. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about, if you don't mind, the beginnings of our partnership here, if you will. So I'm still sharing the screen, but I'm going to come down here and here it is. Look at that. All right. Here's our program today. What we're talking about from the fatherhood perspective is really what we're proposing is building a bridge of joint purpose and collaboration. That's what we're looking about and going to be talking about today. Building that bridge where we see there is none. So let's talk about the roots of the gender equality side, which many of our fatherhood programs are still, we didn't understand that the verbiage. We didn't understand the history or really how the two had a synergy. So let's talk about how that one started. There's this old adage, and I'm going to say it now, ladies first. And that's across any board, ladies first. So let's talk about why they had to come up to the forefront, all right? In general, it is described among scholars as a movement to put an end to sexism, sexual exploitation, and oppression against women, and to achieve full gender equality in the law and in practice. The women's movement consists of women and men dedicated to achieving gender equality, improving the lives of women around the world. Right? Sounds so basic. Why do they have to fight so hard? And they do. Feminist movement was birthed in the 1820s and the 30s. That's when the gender equality and gender justice, in its rudimentary style, but it is what it is. This is when it started, spawning a series of social and political movements directly impacting women's position in society and addressing the conditions of their very lives. Held in bondage, attributed solely to their gender, not their abilities, courage, and intellect. So the first one who came up with that, so that spread the word, this is the truth. Susan B. Anthony, everybody knows her because of the coin. What a great feat that is. Out of the centuries of campaigning for basic rights, not provided women, and as promised in the preamble to the Constitution, how deep and historic theirs goes back, the gender equality piece, underestimated. The most noted feminist is Susan B. Anthony, whose work took root in 1853, campaigning for expansion of married women's property rights. Very big. Later pioneering the cause in women seeking the ability to vote. She then went to establish the National American Women's Suffrage Association. Oh, here we are with ours now. We're almost there. This is important stuff. As Craig mentioned earlier, we are an affiliate of the Men Engaged Alliance, this global secretariat working in tandem with leading global feminist organizations with a focus on understanding how patriarchal masculinities, everybody should understand that language now, fatherhood programs, start learning that realm, those terminologies, particularly for those who are writing grants in that realm. Maintain and deepen injustices. In addition, Men Engaged seeks to identify ways of challenging and transforming these unethical and immoral discriminatory practices, advocating on behalf of multiple intersectional movements, including gender justice, women's rights, LGBTQI rights, racial justice, climate justice, and other intersecting social justice issues. And this comes from their website. We encourage you to go check them out. If you're not a part of Men Engaged, contact us. We'll be able to promote all of the wonderful work they're doing, not only through the United States on a constant basis and Canada, but truly the world, all right? In these two realms. Here we are, the North American Men Engaged. This is who we are. This is who we represent. As Craig mentioned before, the United States and Canada. We are a network of organizations, advocates, practitioners, and educators working with men and boys to achieve gender equality, end violence, and promote health-related campaigns, empowering the community as a whole. So that's who we are, all right? Any questions, you guys, please put it in the chat. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about it coming up. This screen, we just tell you a little bit about, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have an incredible program called Merge for Equality. Those of you who stay with us, and I hope you'll hear more about this fantastic program. NAMEN acts as the resource hub as we're doing now, serving a host of network members, spanning the dual nations, driven by a board of directors emanating from the membership, committed to the principles of ethical communication and collaborative activities on behalf of its members. In today's special presentation, NAMEN has provided a free membership, needing only you to register. All righty. All righty. So here we go. We're going to get into the meat and potatoes now, just quickly. After we finish this, then we're going to call over to my good friend Emiliano. He's going to come on and talk about the other side of it, and so we can merge these two. Coach's keys to success. How you guys doing? Everybody okay? You with us there? Coach, this is good. You ready? Darren, you ready? Let's give him the keys. Ladies and gentlemen, you understand that in life, you know, everything has to happen when it happens, and kind of things flow, and things have to turn at the same pace. We have some keys to success here that we promote, not only within the fatherhood and young male mentorship programs, but to those who are looking for something in life, right? Here's our first one, Craig. Ready? Faith. Uh-oh. You must believe in your ability to achieve whatever you dream of in the fatherhood programs or the men's engagement programs. Guys like that. Guys like to dream a little bit. Hey, I want to build a house, or I want to move back to Jamaica, or you never know what it will come. Dreams are endless. But promote that with them. Have faith. Start believing in yourself. They lack that, a lot of them. And then it's all inside of them. And that dream really promotes them. Next, sacrifice. Be ready, willing, and able to sacrifice in ways you may or may not have thought of. For instance, many of your programs, if not all of them, if you could, consider tying in with one of the local GED programs or the job training, or somebody where when the guys come in there, you're saying to them, listen, you might have to go back to school because of that your kids will go back to school. You see, if they see their father doing it against all odds, next thing you know, they do it too. Sacrifice. Next, patience. Uh-oh. You could raise your hand on this one if you want to put it in the chat. If you have patience, tell the truth now. We got some questions for you. Craig got some polls coming up. We're going to check them. But who has patience is most needed in the fatherhood or male engagement arena? Talk to them about it. This virtue is critical. Learning lessons each moment. You wait for the next, calming your spirit. All righty? So get them involved in that patience. Tell them to calm down. Things will come their way. Commitment. Change of any kind takes on unwavering commitment, assuming full responsibility in your actions, focus, and willingness to grow. Bottom line, promoting that. You have to be committed to this. This masculine piece, this being a man, a father, a grandfather, that lasts you until the last breath that you have in your body. So just enjoy it, embrace it. Could be done. You've been blessed. Next, and last but not least, unconditional love. Promote that throughout your programs. That's intersectional. That international love, the binding tie, providing power, vision, reclamation, motivation, cleansing of the soul through love, unconditional. Alrighty? You're going to be teaching these men, you know, you have to love your kid regardless. If they come to you in a dress, or daddy, I'm gay, or you don't understand all the scenarios that can come, that will come, that you love them unconditionally. It calms the seas regardless, alrighty? And things will come, but because they know you love them unconditionally, it matters not. That really helps them, alrighty? So once again, that's faith, sacrifice, patience, commitment, unconditional love. Jot those down. You're going to hear those quite a bit. Those should be, every time you have a fatherhood program or male engagement, make sure you test one of those keys. If you see them not doing the right thing, how's your faith? Have you sacrificed? What about your patience? Are you committed? Are you judgmental? You love them anyway. You turn all those keys, and they work every time. Right? So we're going to have the deeds not words. Here's some of the programs that we're going to be doing. The Responsible Fatherhood movement is reorganized worldwide, as we all know now, as its target audience and message are rooted in the alarming rise of fatherless homes, communities, cities, and nations, answering the call for intervention with all due haste. The bottom line is when the statistics came in, and we have statistics clear, that there was too many fatherless homes. It was out of control, In 2009, a report compiled by the Washington Examiner stated in 2008, this was some time ago, an estimated 28 million children growing up in households without a father. That ripple effect was not good. So that's why we addressed the fatherhood movement. That's really what we came to the rescue for that. And the fatherhood movement is multidimensional. For those who were wondering, what is it about? Here's what it's about. Multiple issues intersect when instructing men and boys in healthy, responsible fatherhood practice. Multiple issues intersect. Where the first work began in the latter part of the 20th century. That's when it first really started in 1974. Dr. James Levine published Who Will Raise the Children? Ooh, back in those days, new options for fathers, suggesting long-term equal opportunity for women must take serious recognition in the significance, interest, and responsibility of fathers in children's lives. You see the intersection of the two? So that's what we're talking about here today. That's the fatherhood movement. And that's us here, as you can see. These are the programs that we provide here at NAMEN for our members. And we're just so excited and encouraged with that guideline. We can really put this together and use each other's strengths, cover our weaknesses, really put together some training programs and a hub. But whenever you want to address the issue, we can find the best of the best to help you in that realm. All right. So now I'm going to pass it on to my good friend Emiliano Diaz de Leon. He's going to speak to you now about the other side of this coin, if you will. Emiliano, take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. You definitely hit it out of the park there. So really happy to be with everyone this afternoon. Greetings from Austin, Texas. My name is Emiliano Diaz de Leon. I am the Men's Engagement Specialist with the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault, or TASA. We are a statewide coalition that provides training and technical assistance to rape crisis centers and sexual assault advocates, folks who are doing work around prevention, victim services here in Texas, and I'm really happy to be with you. I've been with TASA as the Men's Engagement Specialist for 15 years, and prior to that was doing community-based organizing work in South Texas before I came to TASA. Specifically, and a lot of the men that we were engaging in the local community along the border were fathers, right? And like many of you who are joining us today, identify as fathers or father figures. And so I hope that what I share with you this afternoon really speaks to your heart and really speaks to you professionally in terms of what some considerations, some practices to incorporate into your programming with fathers in your community, as well as things to consider in terms of preventing gender-based violence, right, in all of its forms. And so I really want to encourage you to think about how can we apply these things, not just to, again, our professional work, but also to our personal lives. And hopefully you will take some of these things forward and have those conversations with the men in your life who are fathers and father figures themselves. And so I'm really excited to be with you this afternoon. All my contact information is there. You can reach me at TASA. You can email me. You can find me across social media platforms. So I definitely want to encourage you to follow me, especially if you're curious and you want to learn more about this particular issue in terms of engaging men, preventing gender-based violence, male survivors of sexual violence, fatherhood work. I share a lot of very related content on my social media platforms. So definitely follow me and DM me if you want to reach out, if you have questions or comments about today's presentation, or if I can be of any support or encouragement in the work that you're doing personally or professionally. I definitely want to be a resource for you. During today's meeting, I want to encourage you to share out on your own social media. I want to encourage you to use the hashtag engaging men, tag NAMEN where you can, and definitely tag me, in terms of if you're sharing any of your thoughts, any of your ideas that you're taking away from this presentation. So again, I encourage you to explore the engaging men hashtag. There's, like we've talked about today, NAMEN is just the work that's happening here in North America. So welcome to all of our partners from around North America. But the engaging men hashtag is global, and so you'll be able to see what folks are doing around the world. And so I encourage you to explore that hashtag across social media platforms, but use it in your own engagement with fathers in your community, especially on social media. So let's jump into this. So I want us to start by sharing a fun video that really, when I first saw it, I believe I first saw this PSA at a Call to Men event. So if you're not familiar with the Call to Men, I definitely encourage you to connect with them to learn about their amazing work that they're doing here in North America, and definitely follow their work on social media. But I think I was at one of their events and I saw this PSA for the first time. And it's a little dated, but it's one of my favorite Fatherhood.gov PSAs that I want to share with you, that I felt like is really related to the topic that we're exploring today in terms of our responsible fatherhood and gender equity work, and bridging those two things together. And I really think this really challenges our notions around masculinity and sort of gender norms. And so I'll let the video speak for itself.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're going to beat them and bust them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad today.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys.
I love that. I hope you're smiling.
I'm laughing.
I hope you're smiling. I hope you loved it. I hope you will find it. You can just look on YouTube and share it. Fatherhood.gov is an amazing resource for folks who are engaged in fatherhood work. But they've created some amazing PSAs. So definitely follow them on YouTube. Share their PSAs. Of course, there's a lot more current PSAs that they've developed, but I think it's an important resource, and I definitely encourage you to explore that. But I wanted to share it, especially to the folks in the room who are fathers and father figures of girls, right? I think it's a really powerful demonstration of how important fatherhood is as it relates to girls in our lives, and their willingness to step outside of our comfort zone, and to break free from some of the gender norms that we encounter on a daily basis, right? And just in our daily lives, in our families, in our communities, our places of worship, and our workplaces, etc. So I think this really demonstrates, our willingness as fathers and father figures to step out of our comfort zone and to support the girls and women in our lives. And I think this is just a beautiful, fun, wonderful example of that. So definitely share it. So remember, when I encourage you to share stuff on social media, this is the time where you should pull out your phone and share this with your friends and your family members and your followers. It's such a beautiful, wonderful PSA. Oh, I'm going to share it again. Let me do that. All right. So I'm going to talk about 4 components in terms of our programming, in terms of our work with fathers and father figures. So again, when I say father figures, I want to include folks who may not be the biological father of that child or children. And I want to include them because they're really important. I had many father figures in my life. So if you just Google me, you can learn about my own personal story. And I have many father figures in my life, some of them who are in this room today. men that I admire, that I look up to, that, I respect, that I learn from. So, the role of fathers and father figures are really important in our lives, right? I am a father myself. I have a 13-year-old boy named Joaquin. And I learned about what it meant to be a father, not just from books, not just from blogs or podcasts or articles, or from fatherhood classes that I took myself. I really have learned what it means to be a father from the fathers around me. And so I am really grateful to the male identified folks in this room who identify as fathers and who I've learned what it means to be a father from and how to be a better father. And so I want to just acknowledge that, and I want to wish you a happy Father's Day for all the folks who identify as fathers and father figures here. And I hope that you are able to celebrate the love and the joy and the peace that you get from being a father. And so I just want to say that before we end our meetup today, because I think it's so important to just really acknowledge how important that work is. But to the folks who are working every day with fathers and father figures, I want to encourage you to think about how you can apply this to your programming. Are these components in your curriculum? Are they part of the programming that you're doing with fathers? These are broader in terms of we're able to apply some of these in terms of our engaging men work around gender-based violence prevention. And so there's a lot of applications to what I'm going to share with you. But the first one is, of course, is to challenge gender norms, which I think, again, the PSA is a really great example of. So in order to do that, we have to explore and acknowledge our own lived experience with gender norms and expectations. So that means that we have to have honest, open conversations with the fathers that we're working with about their own lived experiences, right? Whether their fathers were in their life or they didn't have a father or father figures in their life, right? To really talk about the impact of both that trauma, that experience, to really have honest and open conversations about the impact of that. What are the lessons that we learn from those men in our lives, or the lack of those men in our lives? For example, I was raised by a single mother. I did not have my biological father in my life. I had many stepfathers, and there were things that I kind of wish that I didn't learn from them, during my childhood. And so as a result, it really informed my ideas, my expectations, my beliefs about relationships, about fatherhood, about communication, about violence, et cetera. So there's so many, so we really need to begin with really starting with ourselves and acknowledging our lived experience. One of the things that I think is really important for me as a father is to pass on healthy and positive lessons from my childhood. Like, my childhood wasn't all bad. So if you think about your own personal childhood, I just want you to take a moment and think about what that experience was like for you, whether it was good or bad, whether it was traumatic or safe. I want you to just take a moment and to reflect on your own experiences and to think about what are the things that you are passing on to the children in your life, right? If you're a father or parents, what are those lessons? What are those positive lessons that you're passing on, right? And how important and vital that is to us, right? While my life might have been filled with trauma and violence and abuse, like many in this room who are survivors themselves, or who witnessed or experienced violence at the hands of their fathers or the father figures in their life, right? We have to acknowledge that that's part of our reality. But what are the positive things, because in our lives, that we want to pass on to our children? What are the positive lessons that we have? We all have those, and I want to pass those on to my son. And so I feel like there are important lessons that I'm learning as a man, and that I learned as a child, that I want to pass on to him, and that I've been passing on to him. Right? I want to pass on those really good things, those healthy things, those nonviolent things, those loving things. And there are a lot of new lessons that I'm learning, right? As a father, that I'm passing on to him now, that I want to pass on to this teenage boy who is developing into a young man. So that I'm constantly learning new lessons every day, right? My hope, again, is that you'll take some of this and have a conversation with your own son or with your own father, right? After today's meetup, and have some of these conversations and share some of the lessons that you've learned from them, that they passed on to you and that you intend to pass on to the children in your lives, or your children as well. So part of that, all of that really requires for us to really challenge gender norms where they as they pop up as fathers, right? There are things that, in terms of messages about expectations, gender norms that are reinforced in society, in our community, on the street, at school, at home, in our places of worship, our workplaces, etc., that reinforce these gender norms that are not healthy, right? And so we have to constantly be challenging. We have to constantly challenge them ourselves and be willing to engage in hard conversations about the things that our children are seeing and hearing, are being exposed to. Like I want to be able to have open and honest conversations with my kiddo when he hears of something that's problematic or that's toxic or whatever we call it, that's violent or abusive, or if it's an act of bullying, any of these types of forms of violence or abuse that are happening, not just within our communities, within our schools and our workplaces, our homes. Like I want to have an open, honest conversation about those things with my son. And I want to challenge them sort of through my own actions, right? The way that I live, the way that I communicate, the way that I parent with my partner. Like all of those, I think, are really critical for us to have conversations around, and to teach men, to provide them with the language and the skills to be able to challenge those gender norms, to step out of the man box, and to be able to live freely, because ultimately that's what we all want, right? We want to be able to live free. And we want to live free of those gender expectations, those gender norms that are real for all of us, regardless of our identity in this room. We all get those messages. And rather than reinforcing them, right, which I have done, right, most of us have engaged in that work of reinforcing them, whether we're conscious of it or not, like in our personal lives, in our work. We can reinforce those gender norms. We can force men back into that box, and boys, our sons, back into those boxes, our daughters back into the act like a girl box, right? This is really an opportunity for us as fathers, for folks who are working with fathers and father figures, to really help them challenge those gender norms in their personal lives, as well as with their children and with other fathers, right? Because I think that's really the key work for us to begin to dismantle these gender norms that exist, that are harmful, right? That can be harmful. So I think it is really an important opportunity for us as fathers and folks who are working with fathers to do this really important work. That requires for us to hold ourselves accountable, right? Which is the hardest thing for me to do, to say I'm sorry, to say I made a mistake. All of those things in a lot of ways challenge those gender norms about men. Like we have all the answers. We never make mistakes. We never ask for directions. I have to acknowledge that I don't know. I don't know everything. I'm not perfect. I need help. Right? And that's what's so important about our community here, is that this is a place where we can seek support and encouragement, but also accountability for the things for the mistakes that we make, or for the things that we can do better, or for our own, when we drop the ball, like, when I don't show up for my kids, or I don't show up for my coworkers, I don't show up for my colleagues, or I don't show up for folks who are marginalized, or I don't show up for girls and women in my life, right? I don't show up for my partner, right? The person who I'm parenting with, right? So these are all like we have to really start with ourselves, and we have to be willing to and courageous to hold other fathers accountable, to hold other men accountable, who aren't showing up in ways that their partners would like, their children would like, right? So and I think these can be really difficult, hard conversations, right? It's difficult for me to hear, and I want this community to hold me accountable. So when I say that, I also want to practice that, so that if you see me engaging in problematic, like if I'm engaged in problematic things, like I want you to call me in and have some conversations around that, So I think accountability is really important, and I think we have to determine what that looks like. What's the process of accountability? How do we restore justice in our relationships, in our communities? Because all of us, unfortunately, are human. Not fortunately, we are fortunately human, and we're going to make mistakes. What I meant to say is, unfortunately, we're going to make mistakes. And that's sort of the reality. Even as professionals engaged in this work, as men engaged in this work, as girls and women engaged, just regardless of our identity, we're going to make mistakes in this work, and so and that's okay, because you're human, and fathers don't have to be perfect, right? That's just reinforcing these outdated gender norms around fatherhood, and that fathers don't have to have all the answers. They are going to make mistakes. They are going to drop the ball, and that's okay. But I'm going to work harder. I'm going to show up. I'm going to learn a little bit more. I'm going to ask more questions. I'm going to go to other fathers and ask them, hey, what can I say or do in this situation, right? We have to seek advice from other fathers and father figures. Like, we have to encourage the men that we're working with to do the same with the boys and men in their lives, and with girls and women and other folks, in their life that really, again, support and encourage us, because we can't do this work alone. That's so critical. All right. So the next one is practice communication skills. So remember, there are 4 things. This is the second one that I think is critical in terms of our programming, in our work, our curriculums, etc. So we need to have ongoing, open, honest conversations with our partner and our children, right? It's hard for me. I've been married for 21 years. I have an amazing partner, Cynthia, who is just a phenomenal woman and is a phenomenal mother. I am very blessed to have such an amazing partner who is committed from the jump. As soon as we started dating, we had these really honest and open conversations about our relationship, and then the decision to become parents, and how we would move forward parenting together, right? And sort of what our expectations were. And then once we had Joaquin 13 years ago, he was part of that conversation, right? As an infant, all the way to now that he's a 13-year-old, it's that ongoing communication, right? That we want to encourage, that we want to see. And sometimes that requires new tools, right? We don't have the language. We don't know necessarily how to sit down and communicate because of all the distractions or expectations of our daily lives. So it's difficult for us to have these conversations. But whatever is effective for men with their partners, or the co-parents of their children, we have to be willing to have really open, honest conversations all the time, right? They're going to be uncomfortable. They're going to be hard, but they're really important. And I want my son to witness those conversations that me and my partner have. I want him to see us, that we don't always agree, that sometimes we argue, which is real for all of us, right? With your partner, with your loved ones, right? But we work things out, and we figure things out, and we're practicing communication, healthy communication. And so that is such an important lesson. And sometimes we just need to practice. So within our programming, within our curriculums, we want to create opportunities for men to practice with each other, right? Some of these scenarios are really great. There's so many different tools to be able to walk through and practice some of these conversations, right? So that, because the reality, the stressors from our daily lives are real, and we need to be, communication is a skill. So it requires for us to practice it. Discuss expectations, roles, and responsibilities, right? So if you are a father or a father figure, what is your role? What is your responsibility? And what can you provide? Right? What can you do? What do you have time for? How can you be present? All of these are conversations that are so important to have with our partners and our children, so that there are really clear expectations. And so, we communicate how we show up, how and when we can show up, right? Especially if you're not living with your children, especially if you are a single father or a single parent, right? That has other co-parents in your life, or other men who are father figures that come into that child's life. What is the support that they're offering? What are they providing? Whether it's financial support, whether it's emotional support, whether, you know, they're involved in the coaching of that child, whether they're playing sports or they're helping them with their homework, whatever those roles and responsibilities are, that we have open and honest conversations, and that's going to change over time, right? Because you know, our responsibilities are different, especially if we have, I have only one kid. There are folks in here who have multiple kids, right? Who have larger families. And so the roles and responsibilities look different for your family, look very different for you as a father or father figure. And so that's going to change over time, right? My responsibility has shifted because now I have this independent teenage boy who can do a lot of the things that I did for him in terms of taking care of him. He does on his own now, right? And it's hard for me to say that. And for the fathers who are, and the father figures who have infants and toddlers, it's a heartbreaker. Like when they no longer need your help. And they don't need your help to tie their shoe, or, you know, to change, to get dressed, or to eat. So, you know, those are the sort of, those expectations, those roles change over time as our children develop, and as they gain more independence and more responsibility around the home, around our family, for themselves, and just for the well-being of our family, in our home, in our, you know, our pets, and all the people in our lives, right? So those roles and responsibilities change over time, but we have to take a moment to acknowledge, to communicate, to have ongoing conversations about those things. Again, I see there's a lot of comments or questions in the chat. I'm glad that folks are sharing stuff, and I apologize I missed it, but definitely I hope you continue to share your stuff in there. And so I want to just acknowledge that I see your chats. Build emotional intelligence, right? Which is something that I'm still learning how to do. I think to one of the things that Coach said earlier is, for many of us who didn't have a father or father figure in our lives, that were healthy, responsible, engaged in our lives, like we didn't really learn what it meant to be emotionally intelligent, right? We didn't have the language in terms of expressing or communicating our emotions, right? And it's been so valuable for me to learn that as an adult man, right? It was one of the things that I really committed, that as I developed as an adult, that I was going to commit myself to learning that language, to learning how to express myself, to be able to show vulnerability, to be able to cry, to be able to express my feelings, right? To be able to provide the words, the feeling words to how I was feeling in my body, right? Nobody taught me those things, right? They weren't modeled. There was really poor examples of that. I talk a lot about how the only feelings that I knew is like angry, disappointment, frustrated, so I didn't have this expansive, collection of words to really describe how I was feeling, right? And so one of the things that is really important as fathers and father figures is that we give our children the language to communicate, to express this full range of emotions, which is so important for us, even as adult men, for us to be able to have that language, to be able to express how we're feeling. And that's really important to model in front of our children, but also to be able to communicate with our partners, right? So I want my partner to know how I'm feeling. So I need to be able to learn the language and learn how to express that in healthy, nonviolent ways, right? So how I am feeling, right? I'm feeling a tremendous amount of joy right now, right? Because I get to talk about this thing that I'm very passionate about. One, about being a father and working with folks who are fathers and father figures, right? So I find a lot of joy in this work, right? And having these kinds of conversations. And so again, providing that language for men and giving them an opportunity to learn how to express a range of emotions is so important. And like I said, part of that is nonviolent communication, right? So again, a lot of us in this room, experienced or witnessed violent communication, right? Language that was abusive, language that was painful, harmful, hurtful, etc. Right? many of us in this room probably have experienced some form of verbal or emotional abuse. So many of the fathers that we work with have their own lived experiences around that kind of trauma, right? And so how do I communicate without violence, without being abusive? Like, what are the tools that I need in order to be able to communicate in healthy, nonviolent ways, right? And again, that's a practice, right? We have to learn the language. Have to learn how to handle those situations, because there's going to be conflict. There's going to be disappointment. You are going to make mistakes as a partner. You are going to make mistakes as a father. But how do I communicate nonviolently, in healthy ways with my children, so they don't fear me, right? And so I think those are really important part of like curriculum programming, is that we provide those skills and those opportunities to practice communication with their children and with their partners. Because for me, I want that cycle of trauma to end with me. I don't want to pass on that trauma. I don't want to pass on my own experiences of violence or abuse to my son. I don't want him to go to have to live in fear of his father or the father figures in his life. And so for many of the men that you are going to work with, that you're going to encounter, that they have their own lived experiences of that. And so how do we break free from and heal, right? And be able to have the skills that we need in order to have, again, healthy, nonviolent relationships, right? And all of our relationships, not just with our partners, not just with our children, but with our coworkers, our classmates, the people in our communities, et cetera, other girls and women in our lives, right? Those are the nonviolent communication is so important. All right. So the next one, the third one, is being a role model and mentor. Like many of you in this room are role models and have been mentors of mine, especially and personally. Right? I'm really grateful to all the folks in the room who have modeled what this work can look like, who have mentored me, and who have made it possible for me to share my insight and expertise with you today. Right? I really thank you. You know who you are, and I love you, and I'm grateful. And so it's important that you have those mentors. There are 30 people in the room, 30 plus people in the room, 30 people in the room. So look to one of these folks in the room that you've connected with today and connect with them and consider them mentors, right? Because we all need them. We all need to have them in our work. So the first thing that we need to do is seek out mentors. It's so important for us, even as professionals who are engaged in this work, that we have mentors in our life that consist of all kinds of people, from all kinds of backgrounds, with all kinds of experiences, both personal and professional. Anyone can be a mentor. Anyone can be a mentor. So I really encourage, and you want to encourage the fathers that you're working with to find other fathers and father figures in their life that are mentors to them. Most importantly, we want to encourage the fathers and father figures that we're working with to be role models for their children and other fathers, right? That's so important. It's real simple, right? Is that we are in a community of other fathers. So when I see a dad on, like I say hi, I acknowledge him. Whether I'm going to an event at my school and there are other fathers with their children there, right? I acknowledge them. I say, hey, happy to see you here, right? I want to acknowledge, and I want to be seen too. Right? I want to be acknowledged and for the work that I'm doing in terms of showing up, of being present, not because I want a cookie and I want to be like, yeah, celebrate me. And it's wonderful that we celebrate fathers this month, but I think it's our willingness to show up, to be present, especially for our children and for other fathers. I can't tell you how much that support has meant to me personally, as well as professionally. I just wouldn't be here without it. Share your fathering successes and failures. Like we need to be real. Fatherhood is hard. It's hard work. It's not easy. I wake up every day. I'm blessed. I feel like it's the most important job in my life. More important than this job is showing up as a father for my son. But it has not been easy. And I've made plenty of mistakes. And we have to acknowledge that. We have to be willing to talk openly and honestly about the successes that we've had and the failures that we have, because they're real. And there are some really important lessons that we can learn from each other, from other fathers and father figures, about what the mistakes that they made or the successes that they've had, so that we can apply those to our daily lives as well as to our relationships with our sons, our daughters, our grandkids, like whomever we're helping to raise, right? Because again, fathers are not just in the nuclear family. There's a lot of father figures. There are a lot of folks who are helping to raise our children. I want to acknowledge and appreciate them for the work that they do every day. They're showing up, right? But also, like, they make mistakes. They're not perfect. So we need to celebrate the successes and acknowledge the failures and have real, honest, open conversations about those things. We also need to be willing to mentor other fathers, right? Like, I have a lot of fathers and father figures in my life who have come to me for advice, you know, because now I have this teenage boy, but he was once an infant and he was once a toddler. And so I can recall and I can remember the important lessons that I learned during that period of his life. So there are things that I can offer to a father who is just getting started, who is beginning to father his kid, right? You know, whether it's changing a diaper or feeding your child, or, you know, just encouraging them, like, here are the really cool places to go with your kid and play. These are some of the things that I do with my kid at that age. So there are a lot of ways that we can provide support and encouragement to other fathers, not because, you know, it's like, it's isolating. There are a lot of dads out there. We just have to connect with them. And again, break out of those gender norms and connect with other men. And that's so invaluable, and it has been invaluable for me. And so encourage the fathers that you work with to connect with and support other men. Find a community of fathers. That's so important, right? Because we want to remind men that they are not alone. There are a lot of men who are doing hard work by themselves in isolation. And fatherhood doesn't have to be one of those things that you do alone or do in isolation. There are amazing communities of fathers around North America. And it just requires a really quick Google search for groups of fathers, whether they're single dads, whether they're stay-at-home dads, whether they're divorced dads, whether they're dads with kids with disability, like different abilities, whether they're dads, you know, like a play group. There are so many amazing communities of fathers in North America that we want to encourage the men that we're working with to tap into, right? So because those communities are so important to our development as fathers and our support and our encouragement, because it is hard work. It is hard. And so again, you don't have to go at this alone. And that's, again, breaking out of these ideas of gender norms where we have to figure it out. Like I've read all the books. And I will tell you that there were things in the books. There are things that happened as a father that were like, that wasn't in the book. But so that's why those communities are so important. So we have a place to go and to share our experiences and to learn some really important lessons and to watch dads with their children. That's why dad play groups are so important, right? For dads just to get together and support each other, hang out with their children, and to watch other dads father their kids, to take care of their kids, right? You can learn so much from other dads. And so we definitely want to encourage folks to find communities of fathers. I'm going to share some resources with you here in North America that I think will really help fathers in your programming. All right, the last one is to promote gender equity, right? That's what we're here about, is how do we bridge those two issues, the responsible fatherhood with gender equity work. In order for us to do that work, we have to work to dismantle harmful notions of masculinity, right? We all experience them. We all we all contain these harmful notions of masculinity within ourselves. We all have been conditioned in the society that reinforces some really problematic, harmful gender norms about what it means to be a boy or a man or a father. We need to break free from that. We need to work to dismantle those notions, right? We need to then replace them with healthy ideas of masculinities, right? That there is not one way to be a man. There are many ways to be men. There are many ways to be fathers, right? And so that's the work that we want to do in our programming and with fathers and father figures in our lives. Practice allyship with girls and women. That in itself is a practice. I want to show up for girls and women and other marginalized folks in my community, right? In the world, there are a lot of folks who are experiencing oppression and violence. And I want to show up as a man and as a father for those folks. right? I want to take a stand, and I want to stand with them against the things that are happening within our society. The oppression, the violence, the racism, all the other isms that are happening within our countries, in our territories. Like, I want to stand with folks who are marginalized, especially girls and women. And I want to encourage other fathers to stand with me, right? And so that practice of allyship is not easy. It's hard at times. It requires a tremendous amount of courage, but it's extremely important. Take collective action. There's a lot of action that we're taking as individuals or organizations or as institutions, but one of the things that we have to do is to get together with other fathers to take collective action. Encourage the men that you're working with to do something, to provide something, to support something, whether it is, showing up, or helping, or contributing, or donating, or volunteering, whatever it is. Like, let's collectively, as fathers, take some action to support folks in our communities, right? Whatever that is, whether that is just coaching our son's soccer team, right? Or going and being a watchdog at your son's school, right? That's what I'm talking about, is that collective group of that sense of responsibility, not just for our children, but for the children in our communities, right? Who may not have a father or father figure in their lives. Like, I want to show up for those kids, but I don't have to do it alone. That there are other fathers that can do that work with me. Seek ongoing education and self-reflection, right? So we want to encourage men to continue to learn, right? They're like, Google is a great resource. You can learn countless things on YouTube. You just Google anything to learn about anything. We have AI that's helping us learn, right? You can get all the information that exists, right? So fathers have a tremendous amount of access to information and resources now that is usually free, whether they're classes, whether they're books, whether they're podcasts, blogs, etc. There's a lot of really amazing resources out there. So we constantly have to be learning. Like, I don't know how to raise a teenage son. I just know that I don't want to raise my son the way that I was raised. And so in order for me to be able to do that, I have to learn, I have to listen, I have to learn from other fathers who have that experience with raising a son, right? And so there's so much wonderful, rich, amazing information out there. And I also want to reflect. Like, I want to take all that information and really reflect and think about what can I do better. And then I want to encourage you to join networks. Like in Texas, we have a network called Texas Men Speak, where we invite any male identified person who's engaged in the work in Texas, or who is new to the work, who's doing the work personally and professionally in their lives. It's a community of men where we have monthly conversations about these issues, right? So this conversation, we have these ongoing conversations, right? Whether it's joining other networks like NAMEN, these networks are really important for us to support ourselves professionally and personally, right? To invite other folks into these networks, right? So I'm really happy to see so many friends and colleagues here that I invited, right? And I hope that they will consider joining NAMEN as a member. And so I hope all of you will consider joining us if you're not a member already. That's how we continue to grow our network and support each other in this important work throughout North America, right? You are not alone, right? And so there's some really amazing folks here. And I hope that you find the support, the encouragement that you need to go back and to do the work in your community. So there are 4 practices, right? For fatherhood engagement: challenging gender norms, practice communication skills, be a role model and mentor, and promote gender equity. Those are the 4 things that I want you to hold on to, that I want you to take back and incorporate into the work that you're doing, into your curriculum, into your fatherhood programming, into your violence prevention work around gender-based violence issues with boys and men. These are all things that I think are applicable to our work. I want to really quickly share some resources with you because they have been really invaluable to me and to other folks who are engaged in this work. So some really great books around engaging fathers. This is a great book that I was profiled in. Some of the men in this room might have been included in as well. But it's a book by Kate Mangino called Equal Partners. And it really explores this issue about our role in terms of gender equity as fathers and father figures in our families and in our community. So a really important book that really explores this issue. And so when you read it, you'll go, oh, that's Emiliano. So I'm very fortunate to be profiled in this book and to share my own story about being a father and a partner. So definitely check it out. Raising Boys to Be Good Men, A Parent's Guide to Bringing Up Happy Sons in a World Filled with Toxic Masculinity by Aaron Govia. He's a phenomenal writer. It's a great book, really easy read. He's an amazing father himself. I definitely encourage you to follow him on social media. But just a phenomenal book. And I wanted to encourage you to read it and to share it with the men that you're working with. And then one of my personal favorite memoirs about fatherhood and about the lack of a father in our lives. Barack Obama wrote Dreams for My Father. I hope at this point you've read it, but it's a really powerful and important memoir about fatherhood. There's, in our role in our relationship with our dads, right? So really wonderful book. I want to highly recommend that you read it. In addition, some additional media, of course, voicemail from our friends. Voicemail is an important publication. It's been around for a long time. It's really rooted in this movement. You'll find a lot of really wonderful, amazing articles and resources, research, etc., related to the topics that we explore here at NAMEN. But I think it's such an important resource for dads, right? So definitely introduce this language, these ideas to the fathers and father figures that you're working with. Voicemail is such an important resource. Get a subscription for all the dads. So if you're looking for a last minute Father's Day gift, get the men in your life a subscription to Voicemail. It's such an important publication, and it's worth sharing with the boys and men in our lives. There's a really great organization called Latinx Parenting that did this amazing series about fatherhood. It's called the Brown Fatherhood Series. And so they're planning a similar event this month, but it's just an amazing group of men that they brought together who identifies Latinx fathers. And it's just an example of what you can do programmatically to, again, engagement online through social media and have some really open, honest conversations about fatherhood. And these men are from different walks of life. They're different ages. They have different experiences. And you can see this particular panel discussion on YouTube. So go to Latinx Parenting and you'll find a recording of this panel discussion. Really powerful, really important. So if you're working with Latinx men or other men of color, like this is a really important resource and a great model for engaging in these conversations. Some podcasts that I want to share with you. Latino Dad Connection is a very new podcast. So if you're working with Latino dads, if they're looking to connect with other Latino dads in North America, Latino Dad Connection is a great podcast that is exploring a lot of issues related to Latinx fatherhood, parenting, etc. Dads with Daughters. So it's a really great podcast from Fathering Together. So definitely check it out. If you're a father and you're raising girls and you're raising a daughter, this is a really great resource for you. And they have some really important conversation with dads and daughters. It's a phenomenal podcast. And then finally, the Modern Dads podcast from the City Dads group. It's a little bit, they haven't released some new podcasts, but they have this amazing archive where they explore all different roles and like all kinds of conversations around fatherhood. So definitely check that out. Organizations, the same organization, the City Dad group. If you're a dad and you're looking for one of those dad groups, a play group, a single dad group, a dad with kids with different abilities. City Dad Groups is amazing. They're all over North America, so definitely check them out. Check out Latino Dad Connection. They're doing some phenomenal work with Latinx men here in North America. And then, of course, Fathering Together is an amazing community of fathers from all over North America and the territories. So definitely check out Fathering Together. Check out all the work that they're doing online. They're just a phenomenal resource. They're doing a series of these conversations for the next couple months around fatherhood and gender equity. So definitely tune into that. If you're not already a member, sign up for their newsletter, join their different groups. But Fathering Together is such an amazing community of fathers. And that's it. I apologize if I took a little bit too much time, but again, my contact information is there, my email address, my phone number. I want to be a resource for you. So if there's any support or encouragement that I can provide you as an individual, as a professional engaged in this work, as a member of NAMEN, please let me know. Feel free to reach out to me by email, on social media, DM me, But I want to be a resource for you and encourage you in the important work that you're doing, especially if you're a father and you're struggling, and you just need some support. You want to talk, you're raising a teenage son or a teenager, holler at me. I want to support, and I could use some support too. So definitely reach out, and again, reach out to each other and connect with somebody during today's meeting. And again, just an amazing group of individuals here today. And I want to thank you for your time and your attention. Yeah. Back to you, Coach Stevan.
Wow, Emiliano, I don't know where to begin, but
Thank you so much.
On behalf of the team, I just want to say thank you. The information that you provided, the resources, the clarity, the kind of, you opened the door for us. Welcome. You welcomed us with open arms. We feel you, and we appreciate that. And this touchy subject, you know, the subjects that we're bringing on board are for a reason not talked about as much in the fatherhood realm. However, we no longer are having that. And you are now providing for the fatherhood programs. They don't have to do it alone. Like you said, you know, you're not in this alone. You know, you don't have to talk about the subject. We have skilled professionals that talk about that subject. You don't have to handle that. You just bring them into the fold, you know, and have their ears and spirits open, and they'll do the rest as far as giving them the right information. That's great. I appreciate it. Thank you. We're going to take quiz 80. I hope you guys are writing stuff down. I got all the, you know, Coach don't play. I got crazy notes for him. So we're going to talk a little bit about Q&A before we get into the next part of it. We're almost done, ladies and gentlemen, but we still got some more to go. The meeting is not done. You understand? You're getting a little taste of a fatherhood session. Don't let them out easy like that, Jess. Don't let them go. You ain't done yet. You're going to earn some stripes. But we want to say thank you, Emiliano, for that. I'll put your questions in the chat. We got our team that's already reviewing the chat. We're going to be able to ask them as we have this session coming up earlier. All righty. So I believe we're going to move on to the next session. So this is our session now, ladies and gentlemen. First, before we get into that, Craig, you know what? I got to keep them on their toes. We have some poll questions for you. Listen, listen, when you're having your fatherhood, whatever, engagement, your male engagement program, throw some questions in them, challenge them. Men like to be challenged. You know, they think they know everything. Throw it in there so they say, oh, you know, I didn't think of that. Okay? It works every time. Keep them challenged. Keeps those motors running in their mind of being challenged. All right? So, Craig, you take it away, my friend.
What would you like to ask?
That first poll question was a good one. You know, I'm a history buff right now, so I want them to know kind of where this started again. Once again, the gender equality piece. You see how deep it is.
You want to think back to the first wave of feminist rights?
Yeah, I'm. Oh, what do we got there? Uh-oh, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, you see this? This poll is going to be running. Women's equality, a battle that raged for centuries with the women's suffrage movement a linchpin in the message. What years was the first wave? There's a hint of feminist rights established with women seeking to vote. Oh my goodness, that's so easy. We gave him that old easy one, Craig. I gave him a lot of hints. Johnny, come on now, it's 1932. Hello. Is that when women got to vote? Wasn't that long ago.
I think people heard you tell the answer to this one.
I'm not telling it. That's great, guys. You got to come in there. Good, good. There you go. All right, a few more seconds. Difficult, huh? Yeah, look at that. When was it? You think it was a long time ago, do you? Were they granted rights? Do they have rights now?
Should we close the poll?
And we're in the poll now. Yes, sir.
Okay. So there are the results.
Excellent. Good job, everybody. Great job.
All right.
Good.
Good.
1848.
It's correct.
1848 is when they kicked it off with the women's suffrage, particularly with the right to vote and getting property. That was a big thing back in the day. Women, regardless, you couldn't get that property even if you were married or anything. So it wasn't right. Thank you so much, Craig. We got another one coming. We got some more coming up. That worked us out. All righty. So we're going to go into our next section, I believe. Ladies and gentlemen, we have three different, as you can understand, as we said before, dealing with men on any level is multidimensional. There is no one quick answer. We all have our different thoughts and experiences and fears and angers and regrets. So today we're going to be talking about three in particular that we're hopefully you'll be able to bring up in your fatherhood group. And that's the one of raising of daughters, which goes in line with what we're talking about, particularly in gender equality. That's your daughter that should be the president of the world. Huh? She shouldn't be held back for anything. Your mother, your aunts, your cousins, your teachers, all those wonderful things the women have done. So that we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about the boys, raising a boy, as Emiliano alluded to, is there's no, you could read 1,000 books. What now have nothing to do with Junior, huh? With this old hard head, it's not stinky feet, room looking like, well, a tornado was in there or something, what happened? So raising a boy is different, but not impossible. So today we're hear it from the man himself, from the boys and the young fathers, as well as we're going to be engaging you. Today, as we end up our session, we won't be long, but we want to talk about the provider syndrome. All of us understand that. But as you're dealing with your men, you know, that don't shy away from that discussion of what does that mean to you to be the provider, particularly if you're rooted in the archaic, oh, I keep a roof over their head or I pay the bill. You don't have no job, man. You know, you haven't kicked in. Plus you got like 5 kids. What, you don't, come on, we're going to talk about real stuff. But that understanding of the provider, and there's other things you can provide that show your love even more. Unconditional love. Remember, we said that the key. Don't forget that key. All righty. So let's talk about that. Craig, I believe I go to my share screen.
Sure, you want to play your video?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's on your slide deck.
Oh, thank you so much. That is great news. So you have my friend, not the first, not the Winstons. We're gonna save them till last. We got a special performance, everybody. Gonna get you kicked off for the Father's Day. We're gonna bring them the Winstons a little later. The first one, if you will. Let's talk about the daughters. Let's have the daughters hear from the daughters how they feel about their father. Teenage daughters at that.
You want me to share or do you want to share?
Please share that. Thanks, Craig.
Okay. Hang on a moment, please.
Thank you.
And Craig, while you're doing that, I just want to let folks know I dropped folks were asking about the slides. I'm happy to share them with NAMEN and they can distribute them to everyone who's attended today, but also dropped a link to resources. This was inspired by my friend Stephen Botkin and the work that they're doing, that they did in Western Mass. So this collection of resources really inspired with them. It's just been adding it over decades and decades. So there's just tremendous resources included in a link. I try to think of it as comprehensive, but it doesn't include everything. So if there is a resource that's missing, a book, article, organization, please let me know. But I want to share it with you, and I want to encourage you to share it with the folks in your life, the men that you're working with. So yeah, that resource in the link is in the chat. So thank you, Craig.
Excellent.
Invaluable.
So is this the video you want to?
That's the video, yes, sir. Since you asked.
All right, but let's see how well we do with this. Oh, sorry. Didn't realize
I'm Emily, and these are my friends. And some of us have dads and some of us don't. And it's okay, because we're still okay. How do you feel about your dad?
Personally, I had a father, growing up, but he wasn't there during the crucial years, so I don't really like him, to be honest. But I have father figures like my grandfather, like my father. So he had a lot father, but it's nice to have one. Do you love your father? I love my dad. And you're a daddy's girl? I am a daddy's girl. Good. One thing you would like to say about your father?
That he is just a big kid, and I think he's my role model. What's up?
How do you feel about your father?
I love my daddy.
Do you think that he had a lot to do with how you are now?
Oh yeah.
Why?
Because, well, not to say that he was strict, but he had enough to keep me in the right path, I guess. And he's awesome.
Do you think that it's important to have a father growing up while you're little?
Yes.
Why?
Sometimes you look for those things in guys that you date, you know, picking up those boys and stuff.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, I'm going to keep it here. You don't need to see me, but we'll just talk a little bit about that, if you will. Emiliano, I'm going to be sending some questions towards you. You heard the young ladies. Each one of them had their stories of pain or joy, or emulation, or get them away from me, right? I'm hurt. I'm still hurt. You know, you heard them in their testimonies. Emiliano, and dealing with these types of issues, particularly when it comes to domestic violence, have you seen where the daughters in particular are act different, they're hurt different, it lasts longer? Have you seen a difference in the effect that they have?
Yeah. No, thank you for that question. Thank you for sharing that video. I had never seen it before today. So thank you, Coach Stevan, for sharing that. Yeah, unfortunately, you know, part of my own story is that I was abusive in my early teen dating relationships, right? And so the girls and women that I was abusive to in those relationships were survivors of family violence also, like myself, right? They witnessed that's the very similar violence. And so we were both very fortunate, right? These girls that had these lived experiences to be in a program called Expect Respect. So if you're not familiar with Expect Respect from SAFE here in Austin, definitely encourage you to take a look at it, because I think it really, unfortunately, for a lot of girls and women who have that lived experience, you know, unfortunately, as we were talking about, sort of that cycle, that generational cycle of violence continues. And for many of them, not all of them, right? Because there are many of us in this room who have had those experiences that didn't go on to be abusive in our own relationships, right? I want to acknowledge that reality. But for many young people, especially for girls who have that lived experience, that's sort of the norm. And so when violence or abuse is occurring in their own dating relationships, in their own romantic relationships, there's no distinguishing that from problematic or alarming. The red flags don't come up because, again, that's a norm. That's something that they're witnessing, not just at home, but on the streets, at school. You know, so I think, unfortunately, it is all too common for girls who have that lived experience to end up in abusive relationships. That's not always true, but, you know, the research really shows that really has an impact in terms of our expectations and our experiences, and whether, you know, again, our willingness to call those things out when they're occurring in our relationships. So it's really important that there is an early intervention with young people that have that lived experience of domestic and sexual violence, so that hopefully they prevent, you know, it really is a way to prevent that from occurring in their own relationships, and for them to heal from the trauma that they experience. So definitely check out Expect Respect. You know, it's an amazing curriculum. And again, it's working with young men and young women who have these lived experiences, and really is a primary prevention program that really is intended to prevent them from experiencing violence in their, you know, as adults. And so for me, I was very fortunate to participate in that program, and I think it really transformed my life and really helped me to heal and to kind of get on the, you know, to do the work that I do today. So I highly recommend that program.
Thank you. If you don't mind, would you put that in our chat for us?
Oh, sure.
Yes, everybody, make sure you get it. Long story short, for those fatherhood programs and those young men who are dealing with your family, you have not been a part of their family. You're just now coming back into the fold, and you suspect that your child was involved in a household You weren't there, you understand, but they might have been involved in something like that. This is a good resource for you. So, make sure you're having them assessed. Better safe than sorry. If you're feeling something like, wow, coach, I don't know, my daughter, she could have been in, it could have been anything. We have the tools now for you at least to get the assessment. Thank you. We're gonna move on for time. That's the daughters. Don't shy away from that. Understand that whole section of your fatherhood or male engagement programs, men dealing with the daughters, that takes special attention. Don't shy away from it. Don't spend a lot of time. And I understand men with the boys, and we're going to talk about that. However, don't underestimate the hurt and the need for the men with their daughters. I raised two, one by myself, the other was my stepdaughters who her father wasn't there. So that whole night dynamic, both mine, I love them. So raising daughters is a unique animal. You think your son is crazy as a teenager? Man, when you got two teenage daughters, oh my Lord. Take away the phone? What? They want to kill you. They come with a knife. Craig, with the knife. Because I took the phone, I turned your phone off because I told you get off that phone. So it's enjoyable, the daughters, but it is a whole nother life. Great job. Craig, if you will, let's look at the next one. Let's look at boys. Let's see, is there a difference? Do fathers and men, when they look at raising their boys, do they look at it different than when they're raising their daughters? Do they let them get away with stuff? Do they not have chores? Do they not open the door and yes, ma'am, yes, all that? Thank you, Greg. Thank goodness for the technical assistance. See that one? That's the last one. And we got you on mute. You want me to see if I can get it myself?
I'm on mute, sorry. I'm sorry, I'm mute. So which one did you want to play?
The second one, please. The Brooklyn Fathers.
I apologize for the hiccup here. So about the Brooklyn Fathers, okay.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Brooklyn Fatherhood Initiative through their Head Start program. And this is in Bed-Stuy, thick Bed-Stuy. So against all odds, but they have an incredible fatherhood initiative. We're going to talk to let's listen to some of their young fathers talking about hopes and vision for their young
Sure.
sons.
Responsible fatherhood can mean a lot of things, and it's a very important thing. It's really to deal with patience, responsibility, being there, loving. You have to have a lot of understanding, and I think it's something that we need, in this day and time. So many distractions, so many broken families, broken homes. It takes a man to take care of his family and realize what it is and what it means, holding a household together, raising these children up with morals, respect, and it gives them a chance in the world.
I think being a responsible father is like not only showing your child how to be a man and the rights from the wrong and I think it's also showing other kids who don't have father figures how to, go about the right things in life. And when they don't have guidance, just showing them the right from wrong and showing them by example and like showing them being the fact that you've been through it.
Responsible fatherhood means a lot. Not only does it mean teaching my son to grow up and be a man himself, but it also means learning from the goals and life of others to teach my son the correct way.
So they need to, have a lot of patience because things are going to change in their life rapidly. You're not going to be able to do things that you once could do before. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot of time. And I think you just got to be, willing to know that the world is going to change around you and you have to grow with it.
I think the fatherhood it's not just being there, it's teaching them. Because there's a lot of people who just being there and want to be their child friend, be their mentor and their friend. And I think fatherhood is also like not just, oh, I'm a good father, I brought him the latest pair of sneakers, you know, and oh yeah, well, I brought him a new outfit, he looks nice. I don't think, like, as far as appearance, yeah, that looks good, but I think it's more than that.
I believe a lot of fathers are not stepping up because some of them happen to be scared. Some of them are influenced by the negativity, the actual becoming a man and doing the right thing as a father. And some of them just don't know what it means to be a father, other than, oh, I had a child and that's it. So I think as men, we need to show them how to become fathers, not just baby daddies, or not just, you know, that's my child. Be there for your child and be men.
This is London, and you are watching
On the Ground Running.
That's the TV show that we produce on the Brooklyn Cable Network. We love it. Stay tuned for On the Ground Running. Did you like that? Emiliano, did you hear the difference in the vision? And many were talking about because they made a mistake. They didn't want to say it. Remember that in your fatherhood meetings or your male engagement. They're going to give third person, oh, I know somebody, or I want to tell you a scenario. Really, it's them. Let them have it. No problem. All righty? But you heard it? The boys, I took some notes. They want their boys to have, you heard patience. You heard that quite a bit. Sacrifice. I told you those were keys. You can't replace them. So grow with it. Scared, huh? One of the fathers said he thinks men, they don't want to grow up because they're scared. Grow up. Time to grow up. So that's great. All right. So we'll talk about the boys. Emiliano, we got a few seconds here, if you don't mind. Dealing with boys in the same realm. Have you seen, is there a special technique that our practitioners can use, you know, when they're trying to talk to them? A lot of the fathers I've seen, and many of our practitioners here can tell you, once they have that trust in you, they feel you're a trusted voice, they tell you that they were brought up in that. You know, there's not a lot of service for that, or is there?
Yeah, I definitely want to point folks to the Facebook Live that NAMEN hosted with Joannie and myself. And there's wonderful conversations because we're both raising boys, right? So there's some really important conversations there about some of the things that we've learned along the way in terms of our practices with our sons. But I think just like with girls and boys, they're watching, right? They're observing, they're looking for you as the example. I think I could say things 1,000 times to my kid, and I do, to remind him. But the thing that really sticks with him is what I say and do, right? In terms of how I am relating to his mother, how I am relating to other girls and women, how I am relating to other boys and men, right? How like I am living my, you know, my life. So he's watching me all the time. He's listening to me all the time. And he has called me out plenty of times for the things that I've said and done. I didn't realize he was listening, you know? And so, I think that's really important, is the model that we have, not just for our sons, but also for our daughters, right, and what kind of relationships that we have with them. And I think that's a really important lesson. But it's also requires some hard conversations, right? Like being, you know, showing some curiosity about his life and about his relationships. He's a little embarrassed talking about like romantic relationships or about those kinds of things, and about his body. But I also want him to know that those are conversations that he can have with me when he wants to, or when he's ready, or if he has a question or needs information, or, you know, and we'll figure it out together, right? So I want to have really open, honest communication with him about anything. And that's really important, because I want him to come to me when he's an adult man and he needs support, or he needs advice, or he needs help, right? And I think that's true for all of our children, but especially for, like, I want him to break free from that idea that he has to figure things out on his own. And so
good luck on that one.
Yeah.
That's no time soon from a seasoned vet father, grandfather. Trust me on that one. That's just par for the course. He's just gonna have that thought. However, he still will feel like his father, regardless of the paths that he chooses. I can still go talk to my father, right? Unconditional love. I don't try to steer your boat. I'm just here to let you know, just in case I'm here, I got you. I'll never let you fall as much as I can. So that's great. I'm so happy for you, my friend. All right, guys, we're almost there. We got one more video. We got to see it. So once again, we're showing you these videos. We have time, Craig? We're ready.
Yeah, we'll see how long is this last one. Daddy-daughter dance?
So let me preface this before we get started. So we've already talked about the daughters. Remember, in your sessions with men, mix it up. This is what we're trying to show you. Mix it up. Talk about daughters for a few 30, 40 minutes. Then let's go over to the sons and nephews, whatever. And then we'll talk about this one in particular, the provider syndrome. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to talk about that. We've mentioned that. The old archaic thought of men being only the sole provider predates the women's suffrage movement, which is the reason why we had it, because they felt that, oh, if I buy the house, I get the mortgage, which only men could get. I have the job because women couldn't work. I am the provider of this family. I do nothing else. I provide nothing else, no other service, nothing else. And that thinking continues to this day and is detrimental, first and foremost, to the family and the kids. They don't like my father's like that. He gives no hugs, no kisses, no thank you, I love yous, none of that. And when men get older, they found that their worth was so boxed in, the man box, like Craig, we always talk about the man box. You just were the provider. You have no memories. You don't remember giving them hugs, or they were crying because they broke up with their boyfriend, or whatever the case may be, because you were the provider. Today's session, we're going to look at a dance called the daddy-daughter dance, because a lot of these fathers have that same mentality of, oh, I paid child support. Yeah, but you weren't engaged or involved in anything with and this one in particular, daughters. We stuck with daughters today. And this is called the daddy-daughter dance. Get your tissues ready. Is your tissue box ready? Mike, you got it? Jesse, you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, let's go on over to the daddy-daughter dance. And in a partnership, this shows the type of partnerships that you can do.
Man, all the fathers here celebrating with their kids, their little daughters. Got my little mama right here. It's a good time. This is my third time coming. Every year it gets better.
The daddy-daughter dance. What does this really mean to the fathers and to you?
Everything. Everything.
What means everything?
Just being here with my beautiful daughter. And Jordan, what did you say to me? She said, Daddy, that's my first flower.
About this, what this meant to you tonight for the daddy-daughter dance. Why were you here?
It was an awesome event to have, especially for the dads. Usually we are either working or taking care of. We don't get a chance to hang out with our kids. So thank you very much for giving us the privilege of accompanying this event.
If you tell us about the importance of tonight for you.
Tonight was important because it was a good chance for me and my daughter to bond and just have our night, and just go out and do our thing, have fun,
Why is that important for you and her to have something like that?
Oh, because, in the world we live in, it's not easy to find time to spend time with your kids. And at least if I was able to come out tonight, she knows that her father loves her. She knows I appreciate her. And she knows, that when it's time for us to have fun, when it's time for me to be serious, I'm going to be serious. But when it's time to have fun, we're going to come out and have fun.
You could do all things, yes? Wow, tonight, the daddy-daughter dance. What'd you think? What's going on?
Amazing. I just want to say that, I was proud to be a part of this moment, because a lot of minorities, such as us black men, we get stereotyped as being deadbeat fathers. And, you know, my father was a part of my life. So, you know, my goddaughter, Kamani, I remember when, you know, when Felicia, the mother of Kamani, when she first brought into my house and I held her in my arms, she melted in my arms, and I knew I just wanted to be a part of her life.
All around the perimeter, you're watching. Get on the floor, get involved with your kids. Right? If you have an event, you might just not sit on the sideline.
If you had some good news for some of the other brothers out there that didn't get a taste of this yet, what would you give them? Some advice you'd give them?
I would tell them to embrace it. Embrace the experience, embrace the time. It's the most beautiful experience I've ever had. So just embrace it. Sometimes there's ups, there's downs, but you'll never forget it.
Do you think that the fathers are seeing about sacrifice?
Yeah, a lot of fathers sacrifice. That's what we're doing now. It's getting reversed now. A lot of fathers getting involved. So, you know, to all the fathers out there, I just want to say, you are your daughter's first love. So it's up to you, you know, because, you know, I know a lot of women are like, you know, mentally scarred because their fathers wasn't part of their life. So I just want to say to the fathers, continue to be that nurturer, that, you know, push her and motivate her and show her and teach her never tell her to never settle. Show her and teach her how a man is supposed to treat and love her.
If you had some advice for some of the young fathers now that didn't see the light yet, what would that be?
You gotta make time for your daughters, support them. You gotta make time for your daughters. As a father, you know, if you want your daughter to grow up, be respectable, and to grow up and be a positive young woman, you gotta make time for them. You gotta make time, whether it's doing this, whether it's going to the library, whether it's taking them to see to a museum, to the movies, taking them on a walk, whatever you do, you gotta make time for them to show them that, you know, you gotta show them what a real man is, first and foremost. That's the first and foremost thing you gotta do, show them what a real man is and show them the type of woman that you want them to be when they grow up.
Exactly. You show them how, huh?
Definitely.
I love it.
Definitely.
Advice to young fathers would be take your time, spend time with your kids, because you'll always have money, you'll always have wealth. By the time you spend with your kids, they're not forever. They usually go away if you don't give it time.
Your lifetime, and you continue your conversation about I give you my word. Raise your hand, fathers, if you're ready to give your daughter your word. But you'll never leave her. She'll never leave you.
Fathers give their daughter their word. You give your daughter your word. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, guys. So you saw it. Was he not Emiliano? Were those men not the provider? Weren't they providing something?
Absolutely. I mean, what a beautiful, thank you, Coach Stevan, for producing that. I mean, just like to be able to capture those moments between, you know, these fathers and their daughters, so beautiful and really wonderful. I think for anyone who is raising a daughter or a girl, you know, just like it's such a wonderful thing to hear and to see and to know that, again, you're not alone, right? It's just really powerful and important work. Because, you know, we're raising these, you know, amazing human beings that we want to be successful and to be safe in the world and to be healthy and productive, you know, citizens of, you know, so it's just, it's really, it was really wonderful to see. So thank you for putting that together and sharing it with us.
It was my pleasure. And all of you can see as we're winding down the correlation between the two. We started with that thought. Now you understand that now we, in the fatherhood movement, they have their minds open. You heard it, Emiliano, there's their kind of spirit. They think of more than just themselves. Very difficult with men. Very, you know, the world revolves around me. So once we got him open to understand that's not the case, perfect time for us to now bring in a lot of the discussions that we have. You know, domestic violence, how you get angry, you know, how you get your buttons, where are your buttons at? In a way men understand, but they understand now. They are the catalyst for that. So that's the whole idea behind merging these two. None of you, I'm sure you all can agree, all those fathers you saw on there, particularly the ones, either one of them, the ones that have the daughters, Raise your hand if you think any of them would allow their daughter to get domestic violence. You know, she can't, somebody try to keep her down. She can't be a president. She can't be the CEO or something. Craig, she can't go to college. None of those fathers, none of them sounded like they would accept that. Did they not? I'm not having it. So we know that when a father is involved in a child's life, all those other things, those negative influences and those madness, that craziness that comes to them, oftentimes does not permeate to them because the father is there. The father's not having it and they understand that. They become just like him. All righty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for us, our presentation today. I'm gonna pass it back over to Craig, who's gonna do a little bit of a housekeeping, as well as give you some more great words of the next steps. This was only the beginning. This was only the beginning. The next one is in the end of August. We're gonna have our working group meeting and how we can really merge this. We know it has to be done. Now it's about really building the bridge. So we got great build.
Sounds good. It's such an honor to be with you today, Coach. Your deep experience and just the charm and heart of it all was just wonderful. And Emiliano, your information and your presence, we go back so many years, and it's just wonderful to keep on the work and be connected in this work together. I'm just delighted and honored to have you here today with us. So thank you. We have precious little time for audience interaction, and I feel like we need to make sure we find that time in the future. You know, that will be so delightful. I know people are thinking about this. There are many details that we could go into, from specific curriculum to how you handle challenging situations. So this would be a lovely theme for us to carry going forward. So let's think about that. So thanks everyone for joining us today. We'll be posting this video along with resources and whatnot on our website, and we'll send notices out of that sort, so you'll hear from it. If you'd like to be in some of our private and member-only events, please join us. We'll be sending a free code in our thank you message today, and hopefully there's an evaluation form as well. We'd love to hear your feedback about today's session. It'd be delightful. So this is what we plan to do, more of the same going forward. You know, it's been great, and you know, I would just have to say that if it were me, I would be here every day. It's so much fun. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Everyone, thank you for coming. Stay tuned. We'll see you soon. God bless you all.